Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today's speed build is a little different. We're doing this for the Simmers Digest July build challenge, and I'll put the picture up, or the reference picture up on the screen that we had to follow. But when I first saw this picture, I immediately thought of The Witcher, and I'm not 100% sure why. It just kind of reminded me of some of the buildings that were in the background of that TV series. So I kind of wanted to play off of that a little bit, and I kept this old school. It's a little medieval, and I really like how it ended up turning out. So as you'll see, the name of this is actually called Woodworker's Shop, and that is because I end up making this into a retail establishment with a live-in apartment upstairs, and the way I decorate it is that it's a woodworker and like a steelsmith. So downstairs there's this little area where they hold all of their different woodworking pieces that they've made, and there's a little cash register area, although like I said, this is supposed to be a bit medieval, so there isn't actually a cash register in the cash register area, but we'll get to that in the video because I'll show you what I do. But this will function as a retail lot. So I thought that was kind of cool. And here you can see I'm struggling with the roof. In the picture that I put up on the screen, you guys can tell it's a really weirdly shaped building. And I was having such an issue trying to get all the angles correct, but I figured out later that was because I was looking at the picture kind of backwards. I kept flipping because there's all these different angles of the picture that they showed us, and some of the ones I thought were on one side of the house, but they were actually on a different side. So I end up taking a break and going back into this. So there's a couple of like cuts and jumps in this video where I had stopped building because I was trying to figure out exactly what the picture was actually supposed to look like. But I'm really happy with how it ends up turning out. And there's this little area. I haven't built it yet, but as you saw in the picture, there is an exposed fireplace. It's not really a fireplace. It would be where they did like their blacksmithing, but in here it's a fireplace, and the way I build it, it is functional. So I was really excited about that, and I do end up being able to make it exposed. You see the chimney right now that I use, but as I go along, I end up finding some objects so that I can delete the roof and it still looks okay. But I really wanted this to look kind of decrepit looking, like it had been handmade by this woodworker and blacksmith, and it was kind of old. You know, he had been here for a while, working up his business and figuring everything out. So I was initially going to do with the really weathered boards from Sulani. What's that pack called? Island Living. But I decided that I didn't really like the colors that those came in, because I really wish I could have stuck with the dark brown like this one is, but I do end up changing it because this wood didn't look as weathered as I wanted it to. But the wood I end up with is a base game wood, and it's still a brown. It's this one right here. It's called Starboard, and I think it's still a little darker than the ones that we were given with Island Living, which is why I decided to stay with this one. And I think it ends up looking really good, particularly here in this world. We are building in Forgotten Hollow, which I never build in, because I usually don't even actually play in Forgotten Hollow. But like I said, this build reminded me of The Witcher, and I know we have Glimmerbrook, but Glimmerbrook to me just seems too bright to be in the Witcher TV series, so I decided to go with Forgotten Hollow because that definitely seemed a bit more, I don't want to say realistic, because obviously The Witcher isn't real, but realistic in terms of that show. And this is where I start to build the open roof plan. So as you can see, I have a whole bunch of different roof pieces that I have been messing with the entire time. Like the roof is composed of probably 10 different pieces, and that's why it was getting a little confusing trying to get all these things to line up and to match properly. But like I said, I think it ends up working really well. And there you saw me add in a cheat because I thought I'd put in all my cheats, but one of them didn't quite stick, so I had to put it in again. But this is what I meant by I got the kind of exposed roof to work. So we have these fences in debug, and they're basically broken wooden fences, and they're pretty much the same color as the columns I was using and the wood that I was using. So I went ahead and raised one of those up to the point of the roof, and then also used another piece to connect the two different buildings, basically, kind of. So that way it looked as though there was supposed to be a roof there, but they either tore it down or they never finished it so that they would have room for their kiln or fireplace. So that's how I end up working it, and then that's where the fireplace will end up going. But here I'm just fixing the sizing of everything, because looking back at the picture, again, I realized I was a little off, and the front of the build was definitely a lot smaller than what I had initially placed. So I went ahead and fixed all of that. And then now I'm going through and placing some windows, and I also end up adding quite a few like detail pieces as well. I go in and I put some of like the tears, the wall tears, and the exposed wood from vampires all around, again to make it look just a little bit more decrepit, because I really wanted this to look as though he had built it himself. So I also add these funky little pieces from Seasons. Unlike my last video, these ones are definitely from Seasons. These are not the ones from Cats and Dogs, and I'm just confused. But this is where I start to do the fireplace. Now, initially, I was going to build it myself completely, and I was just going to do walls, but for some reason, I just really wasn't liking how that was looking. So I size up this chimney here, and then I merge the what pack is that? Jungle Adventure fireplace into the chimney. Now, as I said, this is how I build it. It's functional, technically. So the fireplace itself doesn't work, but I line candles from Eco Lifestyle. You see me do it here, all along the bottom of this little thing, the fireplace. And those candles still light. So there is a flame that will pop up, and I also place some debug wood there, so it looks like the flames are glowing behind the wood. You'll see it in a screenshot that I do. So I think that it honestly looks kind of how I wanted it to look, because it's not like a roaring fire like a fireplace would be, but no matter what I did, the sim could not reach the fireplace. I even tried to pull out the fireplace a little bit more, so that way the whole bottom of the fireplace was exposed, and it still wasn't working. So I don't know if it was the objects I have placed around the fireplace, or if it was in fact how I built it. But like I said, the candles do work, so you still get the atmosphere and the look of a working fireplace. It's just, it won't give the Sims the warmth that the fireplaces give them. And then here I'm placing these Jungle Adventures windows around. I use Jungle Adventure, and I think these are Jungle Adventure. They might be Get Together. I know that the ones I'm placing here on the bottom are Get Together, but I could have sworn that those were, the top ones were Jungle Adventure. Don't quote me on that though, because it very well could be Get Together. But I'm using these open ones with the shutters because they looked kind of like the time period I was going for, and they looked the most like the picture. And then, yeah, they are from Jungle Adventure. I can see it on my screen. And then I'm going through and I'm picking out the windows for the rest of the build as well. I chose these Get Together windows to pair with it because in the picture, the windows on the bottom part where the stone is are different than the ones on the wooden parts of the house, so I wanted to make sure I reflected that in my build as well. And then here I am just finishing up placing those season things because I realized I placed them on the front but not all the way around, which was definitely an oversight by me. And then here I'm building a dog house. So we don't have dog houses in the Sims. For some reason they didn't give us dog houses, they just gave us dog beds. And you'll see me start it in a second. But basically I take some half walls and I change the color of them obviously so that way they're the wood, I believe, that's on the side of the houses. But then I take some debug wood planks and I placed them along the top to give it sort of like a roof. And I think that it ends up looking really good. Now, obviously, if I was going for a more polished or more like modern type of build, I would have done a different style for the doghouse, but I think that this looks really nice with how the rest of the house looks, how it's kind of more medieval and kind of old school. And so I just placed a little dog toy in there so that way you know that it's a dog house, because in the picture that they showed us, there is a little dog off to the side and a little hut. So I figured that that hut was in fact a dog house, so that's why I did that. And then here I'm picking out some decorations for the exterior. So I grabbed this shield because there's a shield in the picture. Now it doesn't look like this, it's a wooden shield, but we don't have any of those in The Sims, so I went with this metal one and pretended that he was a blacksmith as well as a woodworker. And then I get some crates because I figured those would house some of his materials or his supplies. And then I end up putting some more decorations on the left side of the fireplace. I'm not sure if I'm pulling them out now, but right now I think I'm starting the decrepitness of the house, is if that's how you would pronounce it. But like I said, here I am pulling out some extra decorations to go on the side, and I also do give this house a woodworking table. I'll do that when I furnish it later on. But here I am pulling out all of those little holes and stuff that I said that I was going to add to make it look a little bit more decrepit and broken up. And I never use these items from vampires because I've never really had a house to do that with, because usually when I build with vampires, or at least when I used to build with vampires all the time, I kind of envision them being rich vampires, because I mean they're so old. Vampires usually have a lot of money, so I kind of was like, they would definitely take care of their houses. So I never really used them all that much when I build with vampires, so I was happy that I was able to use all these items here because they are really cool items that they gave us. And then here we're starting on the landscaping. So I do cut out quite a bit of the landscaping for this build because it's a lot. I basically wanted this lot to look overgrown, and so I place a whole bunch of different debug plants from the vampire pack just because that's the world that we're in. You can see me start to do it now, just around the lot. No real rhyme or reason to it, just as though this was where he had built his house and that's where he was going to stay, but the world was still growing around him and everything. So that was kind of my idea for this. And so like I said, you can see me just placing a whole bunch of random debug plants, and we got a lot of debug plants with vampires. I had no idea all of these plants existed until I ticked off the vampire filter. You can see them all lined up right here. I don't know where all of these came from because the vampire world is completely dead. But they're all really nice, and I don't leave it looking exactly like this because it looked a little bright to me, so I do change around some of the grasses to a darker looking one. But this is pretty much the gist of it. I'm just going around in terrain painting and changing the color of the grass a little bit just to make it look a little bit more foresty. And then you'll see in a second, I'm not sure if it's now, but I do end up placing another tree almost directly in front of the house, right by the front path. And I end up taking it out when this goes up on the gallery. The tree will not be there because it was blocking the pictures and it was making it look really weird on the gallery. And I have another house on the gallery that for some unknown reason, that gameplay, the house it's always been raining. So when I took the pictures for the gallery, they looked really dark and really depressing because it was raining, and it hasn't stopped raining since I started that gameplay like 2 weeks ago. So that house, it isn't it looks awful on the gallery because, as you all know, we can't actually take our own pictures for the gallery. So I've been trying to, like, when it lightens up, I'm gonna re-save it so that way it looks a little bit nicer. But I wanted to make sure that these pictures did not have any obstructions in them, which is another reason why I picked this world instead of some of the others, because it doesn't rain as often in this world as the other ones. So I figured I'd be safe from that mess. But anyway, here we are going on into the inside. Now here I was trying to see if I could make it so that the fireplace could be on the inside and the outside, but I couldn't quite get that to work. So I kind of just skipped that idea and then added a ladder in. And this is where I start to build the shop. So at first I was going to use these counters, but they still looked a little too modern day for me. So I do end up switching it out for like a bar table that we got with Get Together. And basically I kind of set this up. I put these swords back here as though those are some things that he's made. And I do a couple of other like random decorations around, just trying to make it look like a shop, like an old time medieval town basically. And so I pull out this table here, and I also add some like candelabras around. You see me pull these out right now, and these are the only lights in the build. I do delete all of the ceiling lights towards the end because, as I said, I wanted this to be not modern day, so I wanted to make sure that I didn't have any of these random saucer lights sitting inside the house. But so this is where I start looking for the stuff to put on this table. So as I said, I wanted this to be not modern day, so right now I'm looking for money basically to see if there's any coins or cash stacks in the debug menu. You'll see me type in coins right now, but there's no coins, so I end up having to use cash money, and I think that's okay. It's not entirely old school, but it'll work for, Sims purposes. And then I also pull out this box here, and I figured that was where he kept all of his money, because obviously they didn't have cash registers back then, or at least not like the ones, at least not like the ones we had today, these days. Now, as I said though, this will function as a retail lot, and in order to do that, you have to have a cash register. So there is a cash register hidden upstairs in the bedroom. You'll see where I place that when we get to the bedroom, but this will function. You have everything you need. And here I'm setting up the different tables to put his different woodworking things. So right now I'm starting with these violins, and then I go in and I start searching for some of the other woodworking items. It takes me a while to find some of them, so I pull out some random decorations as I'm searching through. But I do end up finding them eventually under sculpture, so I don't know why I didn't just look there first instead of wasting my time searching through the debug menu. But as I said, I do eventually find them. I skip over that part though because it did take me a while to realize where they were. But as I said, as I was searching through, I found some other random decorations that I think looked really good, so I pulled out like a glass cup for him, as though that maybe that's where he keeps his coins, or maybe he has a drink with him. And then also some like bags of sand, it looked like. I don't know. It looked good here, so I decided to keep them. And then I thought that the place looked just a little bare. Now I didn't think that they would have a whole lot of plants around, but it did just look kind of empty, so I went ahead and added a couple of plants. And then also a chalkboard sign, because I figured that would maybe have his bartering prices or his money prices on there for his different pieces. And then again, I go through with the vampire packs, wall decorations. Anywhere where I put something against a wall, I did go ahead and put some scratches, because I figured it would definitely, it would scratch up the walls, people bumping into the tables and stuff like that. So I wanted to add that kind of an effect to it. And this is the first build. I just realized this is the first build that I've left the floor planning in. And it's super tiny, so that makes sense why I left it in. But if you guys want to see more floor plans, let me know in the comments down below. I never leave my floor plans in because it takes me so long. But I can definitely try to start working on that a little bit better. If you guys would like to see it, just let me know. But here we're decorating the upstairs. I had a few broken pots up here. I figured maybe those were things that he was working on, or like things that he had collected that had kind of broke. And then here I'm picking out the countertops. Now, the metal on these countertops isn't, my favorite for this style of a build, but it's the closest one I could find with all the wood on it that I thought would work with this style, so I decided to leave it. And then I also do the vampire stove and refrigerator, because those definitely look a little medieval with the wood burning on the bottom. And then I use the laundry day sink as kind of like a detached sink, because I think that that looks a little bit better than the metal ones that we have that go on to the countertops. And then I added a little seating area. I pulled out the bar stool that it can be fabricated, that can be created on the woodworking table, and then also the end table that can be created by your sim, and then the stool from Jungle Adventure. And then I just placed like a gas lamp and some books just to give the sim who's living here a little bit of an activity to do. And then here I went ahead and put in a toothbrush. Now I don't know how realistic that is, but it was kind of just like habit, because I always put toothbrushes in soap, so I kind of just did it without thinking. But I used the laundry day sink again, and then the crafted toilet and the shower from the camping pack, Outdoor Retreat. Yeah, the shower from Outdoor Retreat. And then I couldn't find a bed that I really liked for this, so I think that this is a Parenthood bed. I just went and used that one because it had those same wood tones that I was using, and it was the most basic one that I could find. And then I'm just sitting here cluttering up a couple of different areas on the walls, and I'll add some decorations to the dresser as well. But anyway, I wanted to mention this because the video is almost over. So right back here where this roof piece is, I do end up drawing a wall to separate that little one by one square space, and I place a counter and the cash register there. So that's where you'll find the cash register if you download this from the gallery. It'll be right behind the dog bed that you'll see me place right at the end. But we are coming to about that time, the end of the video, so I hope you all enjoyed this one, liked the idea of a little bit of a medieval workman's shop. So yeah, I had a lot of fun with this one. Thank you Simmers Digest for hosting this build challenge, and I hope you all stick around for my next video, so I'll see you all then. Bye!